What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed, aka President Sneed Tunney.
My name is Chad.
I'm Tom, the OG Fig Kid, the staple of the Turnbuckle Debate.
And I'm Acefield Retro, one third of Honor Society.
Yes.
Joining you guys, my second appearance on the debate. I'm very happy to be here.
Is this the debate, or are we here to talk about bringing down young Anthony?
Now here, before we get into it, normally with an introduction, I want to bring you on as the ace up my sleeve, the Raw Down champion, bringing the title to Thursday nights on Honor Society.
Well, I appreciate that. You are my president, and this couldn't have been accomplished without you, and we're going to hold it for a very long time. But that's not why we're here.
No.
We're going to be talking a lot about three very interesting topics, and I'm very pumped to get into it.
Yeah, we have some great topics today. We all know the format. Tom, do you got anything to say before we get going?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, you guys, we'll just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Here we go. Our first topic of the evening: will MJF sign with WWE in 2024? Because we all know it's very well known in 2024 his contract
Jan 1. January 1st.
Yeah.
The bidding war of 2024. I love how they're playing this as an angle and he's bringing it up. I half wonder if the whole little news that broke of him and Tony Khan having words over his interview is just a work to build towards that whole thing. I wouldn't be shocked to see that, but I'd bet my life he ain't going nowhere. He's never going to get the freedom he needs in WWE to do what he's doing in AEW.
Did you listen to the Ariel Helwani interview?
No.
Pretty illuminating interview, though.
Really?
I mean, like, just real quick, Ariel Helwani, MMA reporter, big time, has won MMA Journalist of the Year for years and years and years. Did an interview with MJF, and MJF said a bunch of stuff on there that kind of, I mean, he's just straight up a pro wrestler, man. I'm going where the money's at. He was like, I want the money. I know that I'm one of the biggest draws there, and I'm going to go who pays me. He says that his contract needs to be bigger than the biggest contracts out there. And everyone's like, yeah, he's working. Dude, he has the power to ask for that type of money.
Absolutely, he does.
Yeah, some of those quotes were interesting. I wrote one down because I actually listened to the interview again because I was trying to figure out what was character work, what was actually a shoot with MJF. And he's a guy that blurs the line, which I do love and I appreciate about him. But one thing he said is that he's not afraid to stir the pot because it's a constant reminder that Tony Khan needs to step his game up. And it's a constant reminder for WWE that if they have an interest in him, and I'm paraphrasing here, they need to make a serious offer that he can't refuse. So how much of that is him playing the character, being the heel, because the heel character in AEW is to, I guess, talk WWE in a good light. We obviously know that that's a cheap way to get heat, and he's willing to get heat, whether it be any way he can get it. And this is something that in WWE, there is a chance, of course, but I think the Cody stuff plays a big part into what we're about to see.
Yes.
And I think, for mine, I think that's very possible. I mean, a lot can happen in the next 2 years, less than 2 years at this point. And the way Cody's book will play a large part in if we actually know if MJF is going to go. If Cody comes in, and obviously we see that he's being booked correctly right now, and Cody is potentially going to challenge for the World Championship if they're hinting at it. I mean, MJF might get an offer he can't refuse, and I think he's the star they've been alluding. He could be the next Rock. I think he has the charisma to be that. And yeah, you said he'd be watered down. Tom, I think he would be watered down, but I think he's a talented enough guy to find a way to be PG, but also hit the mark as a heel in a different way. He'd be like the Miz turned up to 11.
I think the exact same way with that. I think there's an argument out there where people say that he won't be able to work within the WWE system. He'll have to read a script. He won't be able to go to the kind of dark, twisted places he can go in an AEW promo. But MJF is the king of playing the game. And he would easily be able to tone down. He's not good because he says controversial shit. He's good because he's believable. He's talented. And just by having to kind of censor himself, he could work within that WWE system. And Ace, when you're talking about it's hard to differentiate shoot and work with him, like where is he the character? When is he not the character? I think in a situation like this, when he's in an interview like this, I think it's him being able to say what he truly feels under the guise of his character work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that shit he was saying was legit. Like, look, you need to show me the money to get me to stay here. I'm not loyal. I think he says in that interview, Mama didn't raise no fool. He's not just going to take a pay cut for loyalty's sake. That being said, I think Tony Khan knows what he has. And I think he has the money to WWE's not going to outbid MJF. The only way MJF leaves is if he's not happy where he's at in the company and he doesn't feel there's a future, or the future that he feels like he's going to get in AEW isn't what he wants. I think Cody plays a big part in how WWE handles him. But I think even bigger than that, the way MJF is handled over the next 2 years is the most important play in this whole thing, because Tony is going to, anything WWE offers him, Tony will offer that plus $1. Like it's not going to be an outbid.
If you follow the trajectory of what the stock of MJF has done, it's only gone up and up and up. So you can only imagine where it will be in 2024. He's so young. He's so talented. People compare him to a young Ric Flair, a young Roddy Piper. You name the name, he's been compared to it. He's getting better in the ring. His mic work has been on point since his work at Create a Pro. So he has a natural charisma. He fits perfectly for WWE and what they're looking for. And kind of paired with the other topic with, coming up next, and I'm not spoiling what the topic is, they need a new young star. They're relying so heavily on these nostalgia acts, the Attitude Era. Eventually those guys are circling the drain, and like it's sad to see, but you saw those pictures of Stone Cold, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Undertaker at WrestleMania this weekend, and everybody's getting older. Like, you can't go out there and do the work. You need a guy you can rely on to be like, all right, this is our guy for the next 10 years. And a guy like MJF could be the backbone of your whole roster. And whether he's a household name and that the WWE fans know him right now, that's a different story. But I think he has the ability to, once he's on your camera and you give him free reign to be the guy he can be within, obviously, the universe of WWE and be able to fit in the parameters of PG, I think he can make himself a huge superstar, and he'd almost be foolish not to at least consider it. And that comes from a diehard AEW fan. I love what he's doing, but he'd be foolish not to at least consider it, because we know that Fox money speaks to people, and I don't think Tony Khan can compete to, if he wants to be a star on a huge stage, get movie contracts, that's where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with both what you and Chad said, and I honestly, Cody is what happens with Cody is gonna play a huge part, not only in just MJF, but in what happens with people jumping ship when contracts are up across the board. But I think with MJF, right now, I mean, it all depends on what happens with Cody. It depends on what happens with how he's booked. I would like to say that he doesn't. I'd like to see him stay in AEW. But it depends on how he's booked and I don't think that's going to be a problem, how he's booked over the next 2 years. I think the writing's on the wall that we're going to see him as champion. I think we have talked about it on the flagship show.
I think 2023 he wins gold.
Yeah. Going into that year, him going into the contract year as a champion, I think that's 100% going to happen.
It just depends to me what his aspirations are. Does he want to be the best professional wrestler, or does he want to be a worldwide entertainer that transcends, the wrestling demographic? Does he want to be an actor similar to The Rock, or does he want to build a legacy where he's the greatest of all time? and only he knows that answer. He'll say what he wants to say in these interviews, whether it's a shoot or work, but only he can really answer that question. And I think if he wants to hone the craft and give everybody what they want as far as work rate goes, the answer is obvious, stay in AEW. But if he wants to be a transcendent star and have movies and all of a sudden take that next leap, I think the only way to do it is to take that jump into the sports entertainment world. And I mean, that's a decision he has to make and he's going to have to live with.
Do you think he signs Ace or no?
Gun to my head, I mean, the Cody stuff changed my mind. It really did because of the way they're presenting him. I thought they'd make Cody come in as their own version of the fact that they adopted the American Nightmare stuff. Seeing that on my TV this weekend with the AEW package, no matter how you slice it, it is Cody's thing. But the American Nightmare entrance, the logo, it's an AEW-driven vehicle. It really is. And just because Cody made it and he came there in WWE, I think it's like a 75% chance he could be leaving. I honestly think it could be there. Because I think he's going to outgrow what he's doing there. You look at other guys in matchups, the roster's it's so explosively bloated right now. What can you give MJF that he can't get elsewhere? And I think it is very strong possibility we could be seeing if AEW doesn't really offer him the moon. Like, I don't know what else you could do. And if money's not what you want, I think WWE offers something that AEW can't give him, and that's a platform into Hollywood. And I think if he wants to do that, I think he has the ability to be that guy. The answer for him is probably pretty obvious.
I think it's very, very, very possible he could sign. Like I think that at one point everyone's like, no way they ever let him go. He couldn't be himself in WWE. I think I'm probably a little sick. I'm probably around 60-40 that he's going to stay. I think it's very possible he will leave. But this is a kid in that interview with Ariel. He talks about when he was 6, 7 years old, he's on YouTube watching fucking Mid-South wrestling tapes. He's watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. Does he want to venture into Hollywood and do some of that stuff? Maybe that's a part of the gimmick. Who knows? I think this kid is a down and dirty pro wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's always been that. When he was on Rosie O'Donnell, he said he wanted to be a pro wrestler. I don't think he's in this for fame and fortune. I've heard Brian Myers talk about how much a student of the game and how much he loves being a pro wrestler. I think he also does have loyalty to AEW. He likes that he's the cornerstone there, that he's helped build this thing from nothing, that he started with this company when he was like 23 years old. Right. I think that holds weight with him. I think it really just comes down to money. And I think if it's even, he wants to stay. I truly believe he wants to be with this squad and be with the team, but he just wants the payday to reflect.
Yeah.
Because now these guys that have been brought in, the Adam Coles, the Bryan Danielsons, he's looking at them. They're making more than him, and he's been there longer and is drawing maybe more eyes than they are at this point. So I think he resigns. I don't think there's any way Tony Khan lets him go.
Do you think being so close to Brian Myers plays a role too? Do you think going to him and being able to talk to somebody that was in the WWE system plays a role?
A little bit. I think so.
I mean, what about the fact that if he jumps ship to WWE, he's going to start having to do house show loops every weekend, and now he's going to be gone.
Yeah, and Pat Buck just left. That was another one of his bugs.
Connection for sure.
He'll be gone so much more than he is now, having to work just not Wednesdays and occasional pay-per-views. Like, I would think that would factor in as well. Like, sure, you might make a little more money, but you want to be gone 4 days a week, every week?
I think the whole he's going to make more money is I don't buy that.
I'm just saying, even if it's a little more money, I would still rather stay home for.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
Like, that doesn't make sense to me. He could go do signings and make that extra.
I hear so many people like act like Vince is the one with all the money.
Yeah,
Vince is the one. Tony has way more money. If he wants to pull that money, he can. He's worth more money than Vince.
We have the money part. I'm looking
harder here.
I'm looking at the money part as far as what he can make outside of wrestling. I think the opportunities present itself much more outside of wrestling. You know, like LeBron makes his contract with the Lakers, but he makes more on his shoes and everything else coming after it. I think MJF gets more of an exposure and he could sell himself better from that platform because they're a worldwide household name. Maybe 10 years from now, AEW will get to a level where the difference won't be as dramatic. But right now, I think. And then going back to the booking him strong would help him want to stay, but it also almost kind of muddies the water a bit. If you book him strong, he achieves everything there is to achieve in AEW in the next 2 years. What's left for him? You don't want him to outgrow the company where he's already been champion. He's already feuded with Punk. He's already had amazing matches with the other guys on the roster. So where else does he go from there?
I think there's a lot of places for him to go.
Oh yeah,
agreed. Yeah,
he hasn't worked with.
He was tied up with Jericho for over a year.
Yep.
You know, like we've still got. I mean, Samoa Joe, Keith Lee, Swerve, Sammy Guevara. There's all of these other young guys that he could truly have long term. Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. He could come back around to Punk, which if I'm booking it, MJF is the guy who takes the title off of CM Punk. They come back around. He takes the title off of Punk.
You go back to the first time I was on here, I said he was winning it from Hangman. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Cole didn't wind up taking it. Maybe he is the guy that takes it from Hangman in the next few weeks. I know they're having the title match soon, but he's becoming champion soon. The writing's on the wall. I mean, he's going to add up the titles on his mantle very quickly because he's that guy. And he doesn't need the championship. He would only elevate it. And it's crazy for a young guy at his age, at his experience level, to even think that way. But he does. I feel like he would elevate the title to almost the same level a guy like Punk would as well. I think they're on, right now MJF is achieving stuff we haven't seen for such a young guy.
Yeah.
I think I'm at 75-25 that he stays in AEW.
Yeah.
I'm with Sneed. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I'm with you guys. Like I was listening to Tony Khan today on the Freddie Prinze podcast, Freddie Prinze Jr. podcast. And Freddie's just talking all about MJF, like how, he's the foundation of your company. You can build a company around that. I think there's a lot of people that say those similar things about MJF to Tony. And I think Tony knows what he has. Now, Cody leaving, and we're going to get into that in the last topic, but like Cody leaving, that isn't a dagger to the heart as much as an MJF leaving would be a dagger to the heart. That's your heel from day one.
Yeah.
That you've built your entire, to lose him, I think hurts the company.
Yeah. There's not an even trade on either side. I mean, you can't get a guy from WWE to replace him. There's no one else. I mean, right now in the pipeline for as far as the organic heel work and the organic heat that this guy produces, there's no one on his level.
He's a one of one.
Yes.
Cody, you can, I love Cody, but Cody's replaceable. I don't think MJF is replaceable.
That's all you need to know. I mean, you got to give him a blank check, and that's what you have to make. But also, you got WWE on the other side saying the same thing. We need this guy. He's a one-of-one. So it's going to be interesting come that year.
It's going to be great. I love stuff like this.
Listen, 2 years is a long time to see what happens in both companies. So
they're going to book MJF like a fucking monster, man, and he ain't going to want to leave when he sees that paycheck.
I agree.
Anybody have any final thoughts before we move on to our second topic of the evening?
I'm good.
Yeah, just want to say I hope he stays in AEW. I think that's the better spot for him. So I just want to make that clear.
I agree.
All right. So our second topic of the evening, Austin's legacy, changed or unchanged after his match with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. This was the topic that you brought, my champion. I'll defer to you. I'll defer to you for this one first.
All right. So after, I was thinking about this all day. I feel like his legacy is unchanged, but the WrestleMania match did bother me. It really did. I think it's because the bar is so high in my mind for what Stone Cold Steve Austin delivered on a weekly basis throughout the Attitude Era, even in the early 2000s. Obviously, his career cut short in 2003 with his last match with The Rock. We didn't know it would be his last match, so we didn't get the pomp and circumstance of potentially saying goodbye. But this wasn't the Austin I want to remember. I mean, he was limping around in there. I think he deserves the payday more than any of the other guys that got from Saudi Arabia. You think about Taker, Shawn Michaels, Goldberg, Triple H. Those guys are well past their prime working matches. And I wouldn't say they were embarrassing themselves at all. I'm not saying that. I just think that we got used to sacrificing work rate with these legends because it's a nostalgia trip, and us 90s kids love our nostalgia, and we'll mark out for it every single time. And, we alluded to with MJF coming over to WWE, they need new stars because they are relying in the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. Aside from all of this, that's troubling. You need Stone Cold to come out of retirement, 19 years to come out and be the guy to sell tickets to make people excited to watch the event. That's more troubling than anything. I got Saudi Arabia vibes from this match, and I know it's unpopular. People, I was talking to my friends watching the show. They were marking out. They loved it. I didn't. I didn't want a match. I wanted exactly what they did without a match. Don't ring the bell. The fact that he's wrestling in a t-shirt and shorts, I know that's nitpicking. To me, it wasn't the Stone Cold I want to remember. Was it embarrassing? But it definitely wasn't a flattering performance. And he's one of those guys I held in such high esteem for the longest time because we saw him at his peak being the best guy, not only the best brawler, but a guy who can work with the technicians. Go back and watch, the anthology of matches with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and even Triple H and Mick. The guy was unbelievable, and seeing him sort of have to be carried by Kevin Owens throughout a match. He took some nasty bumps. It was a good nostalgia buzz, but when the dust settles, I think it won't be as flattering as people are remembering from this weekend.
I did a lot of thinking on this one. And the reason we sat around wondering if it's going to be a match, why aren't they going to advertise it?
Right.
Because if they had advertised this as a match, I feel like it would have tarnished his career. The fact that it was an impromptu match saved tarnishing it, if that makes any sense. It's like, all right, let's just have a match. If they had built up this big thing, Stone Cold's coming back, I think it would have looked way worse than it was. This was just kind of a fun thing. He challenged him. They beat each other up. Like I said, he looked a little slow. You could see he was limping. But that's why they built it the way they did. And I think that's what saved it from being, a disaster and ruining the Stone Cold that we know and love.
But why even do the match then? Like, why not just have him do exactly what they did? Have him take the suplex outside. Have Owens give him the stunner, but do a brawl without the finish. Have him stun Owens, roll out of the ring, do the beer celebration. It wasn't an official match. It was just a fight sequence that went 13 minutes. I just don't get the logic of giving him another win at WrestleMania. It felt hollow to me. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I wasn't as hard on it as you seem to be, because I just took it for what it was. You got to suspend your disbelief sometimes. Got to see Stone Cold open up that can of whoop ass one more time in a fun way.
How many times are we going to have to just suspend our disbelief?
In wrestling forever. That's never going
yeah, we do that when someone gets thrown into the ropes and bounces back. But you know what I mean? Like with legends, like how much do we have to look the other way and just ride off the nostalgia? And having said that, like I see totally what Ace is saying, because when I think we had a topic about going into Mania about Austin and if it would hurt him, and I was very much against it. I wanted him to be Jim Brown, retire, don't come back, don't tarnish your legacy. It bothered me to see him be a t-shirt wrestler. Like,
yeah,
the jean shorts was one thing, but if he had jean shorts on and no shirt, I would have accepted it a little more. It bothered me to see Stone Cold as a t-shirt wrestler in a match. All of that being said, the match was really fucking fun. I'm just to see him out there, all the little spots, the ATV up the ramp. He took a hard suplex on the concrete. Yeah. And if you listen to it, you can hear his fucking skull knock off of that concrete. I don't think it hurts him. I really don't. 19 years away, you come back, you do something like that. He didn't fuck a bunch of spots up like that just fucking abortion in Saudi Arabia that went down. That match was awful. It seemed like they were out of their element. It was planned well. I would have rather not heard a bell ring. I thought that was pretty much fucking pointless. Like literally everything else, it was a no holds barred. You could have done all of that
100%
without ringing that bell. Now, if they would have rang that bell and it was a traditional in-ring match, then I get it. Then I see why you did it. But they wrestled all over the fucking arena. Why ring the bell?
I think this is why I think they rung the bell. I think the bell was rung for Austin. I think it was done for him because of what he said in the ring. He said, I started my career in Dallas. It's only fitting that I end my career in Dallas.
A good button.
It's a buttoned up end for him. And I think that's why they did it. I don't think they had a plan to do an actual ring the bell match. I think the plan that they wanted to do was exactly what it was, just a brawl.
I'll go ahead and say it. I liked Austin on night 2 more than the match on night 1.
100%.
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
That was
for
hysterical.
sure.
It was so good. He got to give Vince the worst fucking stunner cell ever in history.
Mick Foley's reaction to that, if you haven't seen it,
So good.
cold.
Just crying,
And,
laughing.
and the Vince was sandwiched by 2 amazing cells of the stunner.
Oh, yeah.
Saxon and Austin Theory and also
Austin, yeah.
McAfee. Saxon wasn't bad either.
McAfee's sell of it was my favorite one, though.
Dude, I
Oh,
love
with the
McAfee's.
swallowing the beer
And just falling back.
I don't think Austin Theory is landed yet. I think he's still in the air in Dallas. somewhere.
He Scott hauled that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he-
did
He
Scott
Scott hauled that
And
one.
then the McAfee with the pouring the beer in his mouth as he's somehow knocked out. That's meme worthy and the best. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. It was fun, but how long are we going to lower our bar of expectation for WWE that it's just a nostalgia trip? Like, call it what it is. It's just like it's a quick fix of we don't have any stars. We need to sell tickets to make WrestleMania feel memorable. And I feel like WrestleMania was memorable and I had a lot of fun doing so. But long-term health of WWE as far as talent goes, yeah, financially they'll be fine. But roster-wise, the fact that you're like, think about all the guys that are on that you were highlighting this weekend. I mean, you got guys that aren't full-time wrestlers. You got Pat McAfee wrestling, Logan Paul, all throughout the roster. I mean, Gable Stevenson, like they did highlight him a bit, so you have, I guess, hope there. But the fact that Austin was even needed to be relied on, that's troubling. Selfishly, I wish they didn't ring the bell. Selfishly, like you said, Chad, I didn't want him to be a shirt wrestler, and I know that's nitpicking. But I had this image of what Stone Cold was and should be, and it wasn't that. And we've gotten what we got with Owens a couple of times throughout the last 19 years. Obviously, WrestleMania 21 had Piper's Pit. He's been on Raw, hitting stunners and drinking beer. So it's not like we haven't seen this. I just thought they shouldn't have rung the bell. I don't know. I don't think it changes his legacy at all. I'm glad he had fun. I'm glad he got paid most of all because the guy deserves it 100%, dedicating his life to the business. So, and the people in the building seem like they had a good time as well. So that's what it's really about. That's what it's really about. But I'm more stuck selfishly of what Austin was. I know I'm just
man. It's the purest wrestling fans like us that nitpick these little things that, in the grand scheme, what matters is the people that were there, the people that watched on Peacock 20 years from now, 25 years from now, thinking back to that moment and smiling and being like, that was pretty cool. Like, that's all that matters.
Right.
Like, this whole, like, his legacy, that's in the heads of us, the hardcores.
Right.
Like, but I will say the hardcores are what keep the history of pro wrestling powerful, meaningful, and bigger than just spectacle, fun thing to watch. You know what I mean? Like, we are the ones that hardcore fans are the ones that hold wrestling with reverence. So you can't just shit on those opinions as, oh yeah, but everybody had fun. I agree. That's what really is important. Did it put smile, the Vince line, we put smiles on people's faces. Like, that's very, very, very true. But there is something to legacy. There is something to upholding the reverence of pro wrestling history. And I don't like the t-shirt wrestling, man. I don't like the bell being rang, but I had a blast watching it. I don't think it'll hurt him.
If we're
They
going
use
back
it,
to the
they
purest,
use it when it's convenient, though. They use the history when it's convenient. Like with Roman, they want to hype him up, saying it's his longest reign since Pedro Morales, since where he's approaching Bruno Sammartino eventually, Bob Backlund. But really, they don't care about the history, and I think we just have to accept that. Like, they're a company that's driven with right now. They're not thinking about, how does this affect Austin's legacy and WrestleMania? It's just about the right now. How did it make you feel in the moment? And that's a removal from how I want to look at wrestling, and that's okay. I just have to accept that when I'm watching the product because it's not what I want in my wrestling. I want it to lean on the history. It's funny that AEW as a company has only been in existence for less than 5 years, but somehow they pay reverence to the history of wrestling more so than WWE ever does. Talking about the legends of the past, bringing in Tully Blanchard, talking about former world champions, having Bret Hart be the one to introduce the championship. They have more of a connection with the older wrestling fan than WWE does when they have this whole library of every wrestling company that you own aside from AEW and Ring of Honor at this point. Utilize it. Like, go back and utilize the old storylines, tap into it, just tap into it. You can make something feel
content.
important.
It's just content on a streaming platform, man.
Yeah.
If we're going back to the purest form of the question that we asked, do I think it hurt his legacy? No, I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy.
Yeah, listen, as long as it's a one-off thing and he doesn't continue to do it, it doesn't hurt anything.
We're not going to see him in a match again.
No, I don't think so. He knew what he couldn't do. We didn't see him go for a Thez press. He must have known he can't do it. He must have tried.
Dude, I wouldn't be shocked though. I mean, where does it end? Saudi Arabia checks keep piling in. Then the Saudi princes, they want guys in the match, and they saw Austin wrestling Dallas.
No, I
know they're going to be knocking.
I will say, I do not think that Austin. I don't think it was for the money for him. I don't think it was the money for him.
That dude doesn't have to wrestle another day in his fucking life.
No,
Look at the ranch he owns from the money he gets right now.
It's not about the money. Like I don't think he's gonna. I honestly think that this was for him. Yeah. I think he wanted to end it in Dallas. He wanted to have
his terms. On
his terms. He knew he could do it. He came out. He had a match that nobody's going to talk about. We're not talking bad about the match.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
nobody's talking about the match. Like when that bullshit happened in Saudi Arabia, what was the main talking point? How
shit.
Bad it was.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about how bad it was. We're talking about how good it was and how much fun we had. So that's why I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy.
So
well said, Mr. President.
Real quick, Ace, you brought up a point about how, leaning on these nostalgia acts, eventually, you're going to need to make stars. And that's been a thing we've been beating the drum of since we started podcasting.
Yeah.
But once the Attitude guys are done, okay, Taker, seemingly, he said never say never, but seemingly he's done.
Yeah.
Triple H, done. Stone Cold, done. Kurt Angle's done. Shawn Michaels is done. All of these guys are done. Now we're getting into the next little tier where we see Edge. Edge is in kind of a nostalgia tour right now. He's a full-timer, but he's kind of on the back half. I think he said in an interview today, he's got maybe 3 years left.
Yeah.
At tops.
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton's kind of getting into that zone. John Cena could possibly come back and do some one-off stuff here and there. Who's next? Who's the next nostalgia trip? Who is the next? Because now we're tapping the back half of when you made stars. Now we're getting into the era of guys that are still suffering from the Attitude Era stars being first and foremost, like
right here, the shirt. I mean, think about, I'm still stuck. I'm the biggest FTR mark ever. Think about Raw Anniversary where DX and NWO beat the shit out of the Revival. And where did it leave you? Those guys weren't there next week, but FTR was made into a joke. It's like, it's such nearsighted booking that you have to just think about what it would have done for FTR to go out there and get one over on DX. But they can't think of it that way because they want to sell that DX t-shirt that night instead of selling an FTR shirt 2 years from now.
And here's the problem I have when people always use the excuse, it's just a nostalgia act. Like with FTR getting buried by those guys at the Raw 25th anniversary show. You're just putting over that. Let them get their stuff in. Like, dude, those little things like that, those are the little things that chip away from making megastars.
Yeah.
Like if you're not pushing young guys over on those big guys, and you're always having them eat shit from the nostalgia acts, that is why you're not going to have the Rocks and the Triple H's and the Stone Colds, because you never allow them to, and back to 50-50 booking. How is anyone ever going to be this force, this major name, when they're always like putting over this guy, putting over that guy, win one, lose one? I don't know where they go after Cena, after the whole Cena, Randy Orton, Edge era of guys aren't coming back for matches. Who's coming back for matches?
We'll pull the thread even more. They like to wax poetic about how they created Austin 316 and they allowed him to be who he is, turned up to 11. If Austin came up today, they would have 50-50 booking him to death, and then he would never be allowed to get over the way he was because they would script his promos. They would make sure that he was, and they would drive him to the ground. Think about the last person that got organically over on the roster, Becky Lynch with the man stuff. They just hammered you over the head with the merchandise and made it so buttoned up. But Michael Cole says, "Here comes the man." It just feels so hollow and plastic that nothing can develop in there, I guess, in the WWE universe without feeling like it has to be manicured and get ready to be perfect and buttoned up. Austin, what happened with him in 97 was so raw, and it happened despite them. So They don't understand a lot of what they do. The Daniel Bryan stuff, Bryan Danielson stuff, the Yes Movement happened despite them. He got over despite them because they didn't put him in the Rumble. They kept trying to bury him and use him to get other people over. And he got over more because people just appreciated the guy and they couldn't accept it. It wasn't a chant. It wasn't a fad. They wanted that guy to be over and just accept it. We had to pull them into it. The WrestleMania 30 moment, they want to oh, it's such a great moment we created. No, you didn't. You didn't want that. You wanted Batista winning the title.
Right.
That's what you wanted.
Right.
All right. Does anybody have any final things to say before we move on to the final topic?
Just talking about Becky real quick. When she came back, instead and let her develop that character and be big, they turned her so she couldn't become any bigger.
Right.
They stuck her with fucking Seth for a minute, and that killed both of them.
The man's man. That's all you need to know. That was the shirt they were selling.
Good God, that was terrible.
Was your girlfriend? What? All right. So our final topic of the evening. Not much really to talk about here. Did Cody Rhodes sell out?
Wow. I mean, yeah, of course he did. He smashed this company. He buried this company. I'm not saying he's not where he needs to be right now, but the way he talked about them, that door was closed. He had no intention of ever coming back. You can kind of tell by the way he even talks now. He almost seems like he doesn't believe what he's saying. It's like he's trying to sell it to himself. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good that he's in WWE, but I still think he's thinking, what am I doing here? There's something off watching him. There's something not 100% right. The best I've seen him was that little video clip of him cutting the promo after Raw. Nothing that was on TV or on Mania.
Right.
So, there's something definitely off. I don't know if he's not feeling it, if he's doubting himself. What did I do? But,
it's got to be awkward. I mean, to come back there's got to be a level of awkwardness just in the backstage, because he said it himself in an interview the day he debuted on Mania. He gave an interview where he said there's a lot of the talent he didn't work with. There's a lot of new faces. He's the odd guy in the locker room right now, and I feel that. I think sellout is a bullshit term. I don't like the term sellout because as fans, we take everything a certain way, but at the end of the day, this is those guys' careers. They're going to get their money. Wrestling has had people jumping ship since the territory days, man. That's just the nature of the business. I don't get too butthurt over people leaving and things like that. Go get your money. Go wherever you think is going to elevate your status. That's not selling out to me. I do think there is a buttload of hypocrisy in what he's doing.
100%. Good segue.
That's a much better word.
He didn't sell out, but he's a hypocrite because he's a guy who gave speech after speech after speech about revolution. Forget all the talking shit about WWE. I don't give a fuck about that. That was all just shit for viewers. Oh, he said something about WWE. I don't care about the shit talk. I care about you had a wrestling fan base of indie fans who were tired of the way wrestling had been done for 20 years. We were sick of it. I hadn't watched wrestling religiously. I'd kept up with it, but I wasn't. AEW brought me back. And to have a guy tied into a wrestling dynasty like the Rhodes, say what people can hate all they want. Hawk, all these people. Dusty Rhodes is an icon.
100%.
He is the son of Dusty Rhodes. That's fucking weight to put behind an independent company. And for him to wave that flag and stay after every Dynamite and sign every autograph and tell give interviews and talk to fans about how I'm going to retire here. This is going to be my company. This is who I am. I bleed AEW. And then for you to turn around and go somewhere else, that's critical.
Yeah,
It's fucking hypocritical, man. How could it not be?
I agree.
It
He
absolutely
is a
is.
hypocrite.
Yeah, I think he.
Well,
I, mean,
I agree with
I
you on
don't-
the
Yeah,
sellout.
not a sellout. I think clear as day, not a sellout because you said it perfectly, Chad. He's free to do what he wants to do. He doesn't owe anybody anything, but he has to take the slings and arrows of being a hypocrite, and he's disingenuous because now anything he says has to be put under a microscope.
100%.
He
Yeah.
has, like everything he said in the past has in the future. You are just saying things that fit your immediate narrative, and that's okay. We now know who you are as a person. So he reminds me, and I was saying this, I forget when, I think maybe in the chat or something, in the Discord. Join the Discord, by the way. It's great time.
Yeah.
I was saying that he's very similar to A-Rod in New York, where in the beginning he was like trying to be this nice guy and he was trying to convince people he's a nice guy, but you're not. Like people see through it. And it's hard for someone who grew up in the wrestling. He's wrestling royalty. You mentioned before. He's wrestling royalty. He's not a guy, and I'm not saying that he's gotten to the business where he is because of just his dad's name, but he got off to a hell of a start. I mean, having that name and having that legacy. So he really doesn't understand the plight of really what an independent wrestler had to go through. He did have to go through the run after he was released, made the list, had a whole run through. All In wouldn't have happened without him because he made the tweet and Meltzer dared him, and the rest is history. But at the same time, you have to accept now that everything he says is not, it has a tinge of dishonesty because what he said, he went on and like the funniest thing was the interview he did, I think following WrestleMania, was about, he met with Triple H. He was the last guy to come in, and he was pretending to cry in the interview, saying like, he was my favorite wrestler, and I told him it was nothing personal. And again, paraphrasing here, go back and read it yourself. It exists. It's out there. The fact that he's like kissing Nick Khan's ass and kissing Triple H's ass after being the first guy to smash the throne physically and be the guy up in a press conference saying, we are part of a revolution. We are breaking what wrestling was and creating something new. We're bringing pro wrestling back to where it should be. And now you use that as the platform to get to. Why? Because you booked yourself in a corner not to be champion. Why? Because you wanted to book your own matches or have creative control. Sorry, too bad.
You didn't want to be a heel.
Dude, I
Yeah.
remember interviews in 2019 when he was saying Chris Jericho was his favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
That's why like all of these people that are like locking into him as, man, that promo on Raw, I just felt it. It just
Dude, fake as hell. It was fake as hell, in my opinion.
if they're
Come
going to
on.
say if he's going to
Grow
say
up.
all of this shit and now he's saying the same things but directed towards WWE, how can you buy anything he's saying? How can you put any stock or loyalty in that? I'm not saying that it's not true to him in the here and now. I think what he was saying at the time in AEW, it's not like he was sitting there twisting his mustache and going, haha, I'm lying to these people. I think at that moment he bought it. And I think at this moment he's bought into WWE, but it just goes to show that on the fucking drop of a dime, his loyalty can shift. That's the hypocrisy. So I don't buy it. I'm not going to saddle up with a Cody Rhodes and be like, man, I can get behind him. He's going to help this company in the future.
Yeah.
I can't get behind that.
No, he's not a sellout, because a sellout is somebody who becomes a hypocrite in the name of money. He didn't become a hypocrite in the name of money. He's a hypocrite for what for the message.
Yeah.
That's why he's not a sellout. I mean, like you said, Jack, go get the money, get the.
Well, Tony said, there's been a lot of people who come out and said this had nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
Like the money was there if I wanted it. It had, and take that for however you want. Maybe it's better for some fans if it was about money. Maybe it hurts more for some fans that it was a personal issue. Sneed, you texted me your thoughts on the personal issue at the heart of this that they won't talk about. And you gave me your theory on what it was. And I kind of buy stock in what you said. What did you say in the text?
That they wanted him to turn heel, and he did not want to turn heel, and that Tony Khan wasn't going to back down from that because it wasn't going anywhere with him being a face. The fans didn't want it. The fans wanted him to turn heel, or the fans hated him. So why would you not turn heel? Him going out there and being a face didn't work.
It didn't work,
Right.
and he tried every week. It's like he would give these impassioned speeches. They would put him against someone to try and, QT. They put him against Q fucking T, who everyone hates, and he still couldn't get over. They put him against Dan Lambert, and Dan Lambert started getting cheers over Cody Rhodes. And I agree 100% that's what it is. I think it came down to a creative thing. Cody wanted to be the star, this high stature, and he's doing all the reality shows. He wanted to be this guy. He's got a kid. He wants to be a baby face for the kid. He wants to, the thing he booked himself out of the title. I could never get the title, so where else could I go? That's fucking bullshit. You could have booked yourself into that title as a heel.
Turn
But
heel,
you didn't want to be a heel. And I think the big thing that makes me believe Snead said that is the fact that of what Snead said is, when has there been a vocal push for a creative pursuit in AEW that Tony Khan didn't go towards? He always, people can say what they want out what he chooses to do, but as far as Tony Khan listens to the fans much better than WWE. And I guarantee you, Tony was pushing for that. Cody didn't want it. And then boom.
Because what I said to you, I said, I think Tony wanted him to turn heel, and he legit didn't want to do that. I think Tony said that he had to because the fans were hating on him. Tony wouldn't budge on it, and Cody took his ball and went home. I think the whole he is a heel by like he's not a heel is false, and he legit kept being a babyface when it didn't work, and it was time to change.
If he truly believed that the fans liked him and he kind of got over as a face,
I think he knew the fans didn't like him,
I
but
think
he
it was
wasn't
bothering him.
I think Tony Khan spelled it out for him. Like, listen, you can't be a face. They hate you. We can't keep going.
And they didn't budge on
And
it.
he looked like,
it makes perfect sense.
and Cody always had in his mind this, he never wanted to do just the stereotypical wrestling thing. Fans are booing, I'm going to turn here. He took that as the cheap way out, when no, that's just the
Good
way
business.
wrestling is fucking booked, man. They are booing you. It is time for you to turn. Now find a creative way to do it, but I really think he dug his heels in the sand and just didn't want to turn.
The best is the inevitable. He will be booed in WWE, no matter how you slice it. He
It's
gets
coming.
booed wherever he goes, every territory he works, promotion, whatever you want, however you want to phrase it. People turn on him because he has an unlikable trait about him, and that's okay. It makes him a great professional wrestler. He eventually,
But you got to play into that heel. You got to play into it.
100%.
Yeah.
He's the son of Dusty Rhodes, who was given pro wrestling. He's pro wrestling royalty. Lean into it. So you want to act like you're this guy who like toiled from nothing, similar to the Young Bucks. You're not that guy. You're not that guy. Why pretend to be?
You're not that guy, pal.
You're not.
but seriously, that's exactly what it is.
All the time.
He comes off disingenuous because
He
he's
does.
acting like he is a guy who crawled from the ground up and like, I worked my way through a bingo. No, you didn't. Like,
No.
you got a job with WWE almost immediately because you, and again, talented at like amazing wrestler.
I
I'm
love
not saying-
Cody. I love Cody.
But let's call a spade a spade. Like, he wouldn't have had the opportunities that he had without his dad. But that's okay. He didn't make those choices, and he took the ball and ran with it. He obviously is the guy, and he's well surpassed. He's already his own guy without his dad around him. He tried his best to cement his legacy without him, and I think he has. I mean, he's going backwards now, but he separated himself from his father.
He also said that he is the best professional wrestler in the world, and there's not a close second. So who the fuck knows what he believes? Because come on, man.
You're not.
I mean, he tries to,
So I like Cody.
Grow
but-
up, bro.
he tries to escape his father's shadow, and they put him in his brother's shadow by making him Stardust.
So how does he act though? If he gets booed in WWE, like, so they will boo him. I think they'll boo him in the program at Roman. So what's going to happen? Is he going to just pout about it?
They're going to see him. I think the whole deal. I think he said he signed the most complicated contract wrestling's probably ever seen. I know he has worked into his deal that he can do outside projects while most can't. I wouldn't be surprised if a title run wasn't in that contract.
Oh,
that he will hold that
100%.
title. I want to right my dad's wrong.
It's going to happen at Madison Square Garden.
I have to hold that title. So that's going to happen. I think he gets the Cena treatment where they probably won't turn him unless it's his idea. They can't turn him against his will. The sad thing is Cody Rhodes is a phenomenal heel.
Yeah.
He's a great heel. When he's been a heel, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Why? I don't understand why he won't do that.
And you know what happens when faces turn heel and they have a good run as a heel? When they turn back to a face,
they're bigger baby.
Think about Roman. Roman right now is popular because of the fact they leaned into who he is. They tried to book Roman as this baby face where he's this underdog overcoming the odds against Bryan Danielson. It's like you're not an underdog. You're a guy who hit the genetic lottery. You look like $1 million. You could lean into it. You're a handsome guy. Like, don't book him as like, oh my God, can he overcome the odds?
Yeah.
Cody's the same way.
How long before he's booed in WWE? Do you think how long before he's out of the main event picture and booed? Or does his contract dictate that he'll always be in that top tier?
I think he's going to be in the top tier for a while, but he's going to be booed. I think they're bringing him in to be one of the top stars of the company, so I don't see him not being in a main event picture for at least a year.
I'll just say by the end of this year, he will be getting boos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
He's going to get that first going around of everybody cheering him when he hits each city, all the fans.
He's in the Punk thing right now.
Yeah.
He's on his victory lap, his return lap home.
100%.
But how many fans are like the Dallas crowd? That was a WrestleMania crowd that were fans that were just excited to see a moment. And then the same with Raw. That was still the WrestleMania crowd. The real test will be next week when he's in, Chattanooga and he
Go to
has
Chicago.
Chicago.
How's New York gonna be receptive to this guy?
Well, Chicago and New York were both the first markets to boo him in AEW. I remember I went to Grand Slam and there were the smattering of boos. You again put him against Malachi Black, and he's more of a popular wrestler, which was not really smart creative. If you weren't planning on turning him heel, so maybe they were like Tony already had the plans in the works. We wanted to turn heel, so put him with Malachi and then shift it all the way through. But the story didn't make any sense. I mean, obviously, we know Cody didn't want to turn heel. That seems to be the personal issue. And I think you're dead on, Sneed. I think that's exactly what happened. But it's just immature. Like, it's immature. Like, because you have an image of yourself that you want to uphold. It's different. People want to compare it to Cena. It's different than Cena. Cena was one of those guys that was you want to talk about one of one. Cena's that guy who could be a heel face, blur the line. Stop trying to recreate what he did, because what Cena did can't be replicated. He sold merch, had kids cheering him, and also adults booing him. He was like, he was a shooting star that we'll never see again. But Cody's not Cena.
Yeah, and the thing to see is the difference of who's going to the WWE shows. Is it the WWE marks that feel like they have a victory over AEW for taking Cody back? Because if that carries on, they'll continue to cheer him.
Here's the thing.
When they get to New York and Chicago, you get the real wrestling fans.
I'm happy for everybody involved.
Exactly.
I'm happy for AEW is going to be great without him. He doesn't suck up that time that he would take. It gives other guys an opportunity. Maybe he did reach the end of the road. There are guys there that I enjoy watching way more. I'm stoked for Cody. Cody's getting what he wants. WWE has a fresh new face that built something outside of the company. That's fucking exciting. I'm excited for all of it, man. Like, we win.
Drink it in, man.
And I'll just say my last thing about Cody is he fits right in where he's at right now.
Yeah.
He's right where he needs to be. Judging by their product and what he wants to do, he's right where he needs to be.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll utilize some of those boo and cheer buttons that they've been utilizing on the shows where he's being booed, but on Hulu, all of a sudden he's getting unanimous cheers. So that's also a nice little thing you got in WWE as well.
Just a quick round robin to wrap it up. Do you guys think he returns to AEW at any point in the future?
Hell yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a huge pop return. 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, he will show back up there.
100% he'll be back there. He'll get a hero's welcome home. It's going to be huge. It'll make more media than this did him coming back to WWE.
When he comes back, he will come back as a heel.
Oh, for sure.
He'll come back to a hero's welcome, and then he fucking heals off on everyone. I left to go to the. That's when you bring him back heel, because
that would be amazing.
You could stick the dagger in the fans. They're all so happy to have him back, and then he just sticks him with the knife.
Yeah,
now you want to cheer for me.
The best is that meme. I don't know if you've seen like "Let's Make a Deal" with the meme, and it's like you get Cody Rhodes, we get Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, Miro, Malachi Black, and the list goes on. Samoa Joe. All right, cool. I'll take that deal any day of the week. So I'm happy for Cody. Go do your thing. I'm happy for the wrestling universe where people can go, and it's a fluid thing where you don't know what's going to happen. I think it's awesome that he's there with the product that we've seen on AEW television week to week.
I love it.
It's an awesome thing. It was a spectacle, but let's see how long it lasts where people have to see him. He's going to have to be on TV week to week, and I don't know how long he's not going to be booed. So if they want him to be a face, they're in for a rude awakening.
They got to fix his rant thing, though.
Yeah,
got to get that under control.
His head, that was like out of a fucking head.
He was like a meerkat. He was a meerkat, like popping it.
Let me ask
reminded me of when his head was stuck right there. It reminded me of the movie This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah,
when they're like when they're lost backstage and can't find the stage. It was like one of those moments.
This one goes to 11.
Cody left WWE 6 years ago. He's without a doubt one of the biggest names and influencers in wrestling. How much of this do you think he did for his ego to get everybody talking and show everybody, hey, listen, I'm going to control this whole wrestling world. I'm going to have everybody talking by going back there. It's going to be all about me.
I think if you asked him a couple of years ago, he probably would have said it would be an impossibility that he'd be in WWE. I don't think he ever believed this could be possible. I think the tea leaves fell and you read the future the way it landed. And I don't think he would have ever believed you if you would have run back in time and told him this would happen. You pull him aside at that Jacksonville.
I don't think this was a plan.
Thing. It wasn't a plan. This was spur of the
moment. I think it all just I think the fans turning on him mixed with all of this influx of new talent, mixed with Vince and Bruce Pritchard showing interest and saying, hey, we want to take you the way you are. Why would we change what isn't broken?
Well, Nick Khan's such a great guy.
Yeah.
But also, isn't that sad though? He goes back because now his ex-girlfriend is saying, oh, you aren't so bad. You've been achieving great things. You're so handsome. I want you back. And now he's like, oh, you do? Awesome. And then leaves leaves the good relationship he's been having just because, his old girlfriend wants him back. Toxic relationship. Yeah.
There's a saying in our circle of friends, when a friend goes back to some scandalous bitch who done you dirty and then you go back to her, that's some bitch shit.
Yeah.
That's a good way to sum it up, Cody. That is some bitch shit.
I mean, it is like you're going back to someone who, I don't know.
Yeah. There's a part of him that loves what he's done to the wrestling industry, having everybody talk about this for the last few months.
Yeah.
His little ego is strong.
Oh, man. It's fun. It's
fun for everybody.
I love
fans.
I know on Raw Down, someone said, I forget who, someone said something about it being bad for wrestling podcasting, because it gets everyone.
It was Anthony.
I'm like, no, dude, this is great for podcasting.
He said he hates being a podcaster during this.
No, this is when it's great. This is when you get all these different opinions and you get to talk. And this is the best type of stuff.
I want him sitting in that room with the dinosaur head with Vince at one table on a big screen. I want them to play the BTE skits where he has the shakes with the WWE stuff and he's possessed by the WWE. He's like, oh, how in your house, beware a dog. Like, and he's just going up. Show Vince that. I want him to watch that. You have to, you know what? You want to be back? Now listen to Vince's reactions. Vince has never seen it.
Vince would be
amazing. Good shit, pal.
Here's my question. Cody said everything he said about WWE was all part of the act. We don't see him making those same comments about AEW now. He's done nothing but praise them. So,
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Also, you mentioned Raw Down. Well, they don't have a champion.
That's true. That's true.
We have a champion on Honor Society that you can catch every Thursday at 7 p.m.
on YouTube.
So, all right. Does anybody have any final thoughts on this topic?
Nope. I just appreciate you guys having me on here and everyone being so courteous during this debate. It's getting a lot of heated in the circles I run in with the Cody stuff. So it's been nice to have friendly discourse about it for once.
Oh yeah, man. And quick,
you want to round robin it?
Yeah, real quick. We got a round robin. New little thing we'll do on the debate. This is just multiple choice, one question, one answer. WrestleMania 38, was it top 5, top 10, or overrated?
Overrated.
I would say top 10. It could have been top 5 if Rock showed up at the end.
I say top 10. It's in the back half of my 10, but it'd probably be in the 8, 9, or 10 spot for me.
I'd say if it's top 10, no, I'd say overrated. Top 15, I'd say yes.
So Sneed and Tom overrated. Me and Ace top 10.
If it was one night and they cut out some of the garbage.
True.
I'm
Good
with
point.
you. I'm with
Might
you.
have been top 5. Might
Yeah,
have been top
one
3.
Sunday
That's
night
what
we
did
can
it
do
for me.
Sunday night we can do it.
They cut out all the fucking bullshit packages.
Yeah.
They trim some of the stupid ass matches that sucked, and they have Rock show up at the end. That's a top 3 Mania.
Easily.
Dude, there was an hour and a half of wrestling on night 2 in a 4-hour show. You cut out all the video packages, the recap stuff, this commercials at WrestleMania. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
All right,
guys.
Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are tuning into theturnbuckletavern.com for all things tavern. You can catch Acefield and myself on Thursdays at 7 p.m. on the Honor Society. Tom, get your shit in.
Turnbuckle Sessions this Friday. Me and Mike Belcast. Look at the guys that made us fans. The OG Fit Kid on Twitter and Instagram.
Court is dismissed.